Hello everyone, it's GigaBeef here, and today we're looking at tricks for early progress now that we've seen the changes to the early game in 12.12.30, and jumping right in, we need to talk about Salewas. These are proving difficult for lots of people this patch, and there are really only two solutions to this as usual, which is either to find them directly or to craft them in the hideout. My successful spots have either been in the medical camp on woods or on top of the skeleton building in customs. Oh, Salewa, it's not worth it at all. However, you can try any med spawn you're comfortable with, such as White Bishop on reserve, Crack House on customs, as well as stashes and various loot containers. Rude not to. I'm as I said before, Salewa. Oh, now we just have to leave. Go for long enough and you'll find them eventually. However, there is an alternative route using the hideout, although it's not necessarily easier. The requirements for Med Station 1 have changed to 1 disposable syringe, 1 pile of meds, as well as 2 aseptic bandages that you can buy from Therapist. All are fairly common med spawn items, as well as the fabled Ololo multivitamins, which are uncommon-ish and a new item. I found mine fighting another player in the Woods USEC camp. Once you've created the Med Station 1, you can craft a Salewa for 2 S-March tourniquets and 2 car medkits. Keep your car kits for this until you finish the quest, as you can't buy them at the start. This is different to previous wipes, and the craft for Salewas has changed, so I used all of my car kits as regular meds on day 1, not realising that the ones you get at the beginning would be useful later. Bummer. Unfortunately, there's another prerequisite here as well, as the generator needs to be level 1 before you can craft anything in the med station. You can turn the generator off afterwards, admittedly for a massive time penalty, but the power needs to be on when you start the craft to do it, and the generator requires 1 spark plug, which I found in a sports bag. Even before this though, you need security 1 to make the generator, and it seems like a bit of a niche issue, but myself and a couple of others have literally not found a tape measure that you need to make it at all so far. So until that gets done, you can't use any of the hideout modules outside of the lavatory because of power issues. Once you manage to get your generator up and running, if you don't have enough car kits, all is not lost. There's an incredible chain of barters that you can do to provide materials for the Salewa craft, firstly being the humpback salmon for a car kit. Try not to eat these in case you need them. Next, you can get a humpback salmon for 2 toothpastes. Be a little careful, as the lavatory one also needs one of these. Then, if that wasn't enough for you, you can get a toothpaste for 2 of the orthodontox toothpastes. Yes, the scaling of this barter chain gets a little crazy, but for argument's sake, if you did manage to find 8 orthodontox toothpastes, these barter for 4 regular ones, which barter for 2 humpbacks, which barters for 2 car kits, which can be crafted into 1 Salewa. And of course, you need 3 Salewas to finish the quest. If you can find any of these items in the chain, it might help you get this task done earlier than finding the Salewas directly. One quick note is the paid barter from Therapist doesn't help, as it's not find in raid if you get it from a barter, and just making sure no one does that one by accident and has a sad realisation. A quick note about the lavatory, this now requires the awl. Apparently people are finding these on woods, around village specifically, however I have not found one myself either yet, and it seems that this is one of the trickier items this patch at the start. If you do find one, pop it in your secure container as soon as you can. Gas analyzers, on the other hand, seem to have a much higher spawn rate this wipe so far. Most people appear to be having no issues finding them, and they are relatively common, especially compared to the start of 12.12. I've personally had the most luck in sports bags so far. For quests, now that debut is 5 scavs anywhere, it is so much easier to complete. The easy way is to identify all your items to get enough XP to get to level 2, complete Mechanics Quest Introduction to get Jaeger. Do note that after getting level 2, you might need to load into an offline factory raid and cancel it to get the quest status to update and actually give you the quest. Then, once you have Jaeger, you can buy the 133 shotguns directly from him. They aren't sold out non-stop now, but at peak times it can still be a bit of a race, so do note down the time that he'll reset if they're sold out, and be there to snag them as soon as possible. We got them. Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. The snipe, my friends. There have also been some changes to the early quest path that Jaeger haters will be very pleased about. One of the worst things for Jaeger, especially for standard account players that don't get the 0.2 rep boost that EOD does, is that quests for other traders, in particular Skier, remove rep from him, and it is really hard to get his level up. However, now, after completing Acquaintance for the Iskras, Croutons and Beef Stews, and then Survivalist Path Unprotected but Dangerous, where you kill 5 scavs with no armour, the Tarkov shooter questline opens up. Previously, this one only came after doing some of the high-level mechanic gunsmith quests, but with the ability to get onto this questline now, you're able to unlock some of that Jaeger rep much earlier than in the past. I did the first 2 parts with the VPO and EKO ammo, which is great because the gun is mega cheap, has relatively nice irons, and can mount the beginner scope, the Pillad in the 25mm rings, which are all accessible from Jaeger 1. It's not a nice optic, but it will do for this one. You can even suppress the 215 from Skier right at the start too, which is a bit expensive but potentially worth it while the maps are super populated. The key barters that we discussed in my prep vid are still there, being the green tea and squash for the director's office key, plus the crackers that you can buy from therapists directly, and the 7 pile of meds for Dorms 206 if you're struggling when you get there. It's not possible for standard players due to the rep requirement, but once you hit level 13, EOD players can get to therapist 2 because she needs 0.5 rep. Here there is a barter for 4 gold chains for the office key as well, as another option, although it is in high demand. Outside of these quests, we've had a sneak preview into the future for Shooterborn in Heaven as the fastest players progress through the game. Not only was Lighthouse added, which I think is totally fine, but the requirement was up to 125 meters on every map. The issue with this is that customs was already quite difficult to get 100 meter headshots, as the landscape makes finding these fairly tricky and certainly unlikely to find naturally. Personally, I think they should have left customs at 100 meters and upped the others if they wanted to. As an already difficult quest, this one has now been turned up to 11. Keys that used to have 100 uses now have 40, those with 50, like the factory exit key, are now 20, and those with 25 previously, like the Dorm's Mark II key, are now 10. General tool rarity seems relatively similar to Last Wipe broadly, despite the introduction of the auxiliary tool system where they get returned to you after doing certain crafts in the hideout. Finally, we have some other changes of note, courtesy of Logical Solutions and his Tarkov Changes website. Some of the map timers have been adjusted, with woods at 35 minutes and customs at 30 in particular, making those locations quite squeaky to get out of in time, especially if your path is blocked by a firefight. The flea market taxes have apparently gone back to the way they were before. They got super pumped up at the end of 12.12, which is going to help you make money once you reach level 15 for the flea market. Large helmets have had their ergonomics nerfed, with the Altin, Reesti and Masker removing about 8 or 9 more ergonomics than they did previously. Not that that will change the GigaChad meta for these helmets, I don't think, but I guess it helps a bit. One final change that I'm still figuring out the implications of is that some weapons seem to have had their default ammo adjusted. This makes a difference for their zeroing profiles, so for example, the 7.62 MDR, which used to be zeroed for M61, is now based off BCP FMJ. Not entirely sure why this was done, and for the most part I don't think it makes much difference, but I really hope that a default round selection system is in the works that we've discussed previously in my zeroing video. Outside of this, some of the biggest changes to the game have been around bullet penetration on 7.62 PS, 545 PP, BP and BT, and 300 blackout AP, which is all detailed in this video here, so go and give that a watch if you haven't seen it already. As usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, hit all the buttons if you enjoyed the video, and as always, have fun in your raids.